Okay, so we are back, and I want to thank you for tuning in, stopping by to my channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, and those who are returning viewers, I thank you for being here. If you want to book a reading with me, the link is going to be in the description box. I also have a Patreon if you're looking for one-on-ones or mentorship. I also do a lot of informational posts on there. You can check that information out. I also sell products. Everything is in the description box below, but we're going to go ahead today and we're going to talk about a list of spirits that you can work with, that doesn't require initiation. It doesn't require for you to be a specific race or ethnicity. These spirits are pretty much known to work with anybody who comes to them. Now, what I will say is that when you are doing devotional work, even if you are summoning a spirit from Ars Goetia to ask for something, to petition for something, you have to understand that you have to build a relationship. 9 times out of 10, that spirit is going to have an expectation that you are either going to worship them, you're going to devote yourself to them, you're going to be working with them. Sometimes they may get territorial or possessive of you, and they're going to have an expectation to be your main. So just take this video with, as an informational video. Be very smart with your practice. It's okay for you to experiment and test and learn, or whatever the case is, but don't just hop into something until you've done the research. These spirits are amazing for anyone who wants to start working with necromancy, who needs a spirit to do hurting, to do protective work, and to help kind of look over the spirits of the dead. But it's not something that you just want to jump into immediately. Sometimes it takes years to build relationships with some of these spirits. But I'm going to talk about the masculine spirits you can work with and the feminine spirits. I also recommend not mixing the two. Start out with one. Unless another one comes to you, then that's completely different. But just don't mix and match. Don't try, busting out the gate, just trying to do whatever you can. Like, just take your time. The most important thing you can do to become a very great or amazing practitioner is to take your time when it comes to this stuff. It's not something that you want to jump into. You should be baby stepping, slow pacing, getting to know things at a rate that works for you. Now, as I discussed previously in another video, the importance of herding or shepherding the spirits when you're a necromancer. If you're somebody who goes and does a lot of graveyard work, if you're somebody who does a lot of work with the dead, you tend to have them around you. The dead can drain your energy. Sometimes they come in all times of night to tell you messages. I've had that before where I'll give you a quick story time. I was previously talking to someone. This was so many years ago. This was like 7 years ago. I was talking to someone who had a family member that passed away, and they passed away tragically. I'm talking about, like, this person was murdered, execution style, due to gun violence. It was horrible, like a horrific way to die. And this person was going through a lot of grief, and they were mourning. And I remember not even knowing all the details. Like, they didn't tell me what was going on. They just, called me to kind of talk and just, I need somebody to kind of be here for me. But they wouldn't really open up and say what was going on. And I smelled the person come in, because when you haven't crossed over or transitioned properly, you smell like the dead. Like, you smell like decaying. Normally when somebody has transitioned over properly, they'll have like a distinct scent. Like, it could be, maybe a cologne they wore, or like flowers or something like that. But when somebody has not transitioned over to the other side and they're kind of an intranquil spirit, they smell like decayed, like body parts, like dead animal, or I just don't know how to, that's the best way that I can put it. And I remember speaking on the phone with this person, and when their cousin came in, I kind of described what this person was like, or what they look like, and that's because I was able to get these messages. But just as simple as that, this spirit knew that I can see or sense other spirits, or people who are in that realm, and they just made it their right to come in and kind of give a message to me to give to that person. So that's why you need a spirit that herds. At that point, I was not doing spirit herding, or I was not working with a deity who was able to look over or do any guidance. I was kind of a little bit getting more into like Orisha practice at that time. And I also worked with the Devis, but I didn't do too much in necromancy because I was still kind of learning and studying. A lot of stuff came to me through trial and error, or just kind of fell in my lap. When it came to understanding certain spirits or certain spiritual practices, it literally just fell in my lap. Even with voodoo, it was like it just fell into my lap. But it's very important if you're somebody who communicates with the dead. It's important if you are somebody who is trying to get into doing graveyard magic, death doula, anything that has to do with the spirits of the dead. You want to have some kind of spirit that shepherds or herds. Now, like I said, you do not need to be initiated into a practice to work with these spirits. Are some of these spirits in initiated practices? Yes, absolutely. I will tell you that. So that's why I'm saying, these are as beginner friendly as I can find. I do not recommend summoning spirits from like Ars Goetia or demonic spirits or jinn if you are not experienced. As somebody who worked with Jab, which are very similar in energy to jinn, I just wouldn't recommend going down that road because it can, if you don't know what you're doing, can lead you into psychosis. The energy of these spirits are very heavy. If you're somebody who don't know how to clean yourself properly, which unfortunately I met people who were necromancers for years and don't clean themselves properly. They don't even know how to do that. And I had to like guide them or teach them or show them or whatever the case is. So if you're still a little bit, of a beginner, you're trying to get into it, I just want you to really do your research and just study certain things before you hop into it. Would I be happy to make a video going into depth and detail if that's something that y'all want? I love doing research. I love studying. I love even when I apply the work itself to see a lot of these spirits I have had some kind of interaction with that I'm going to give you off of this list, which is why these were the ones that I recommend when you are a beginner, because yes, they require like a devotional relationship with you. Of course, you will need a altar to these spirits. Of course, you will need to have some kind of ritual to summon or invoke these spirits. But it's very important that you do your research and that you also build that relationship before you jump into anything. Now, the first one that I'm going to talk about is Osiris. He is a god of the afterlife, fertility. He shepherds the dead. He's literally the shepherd god. When you see him, he has a staff. More than likely, a lot of the spirits that you will see or that I'm going to speak about today have some kind of staff, a scythe. They have something. And think about it in certain Orisha practices, you need a egun stick or a staff. And the reason why you need that staff is to control the dead. Look at any sorcery or necromancy, like cartoon or movie or anything. You need a staff in order for you to herd or guide the dead. A lot of necromancers, a lot of sorcerers have a staff in order for them to direct or hold that energy. The energy is within the staff. You may find the same thing in a ring. However, sometimes with jewelry, it may require for you to have an attunement, refeed it. It's certain rituals that you may have to do to maintain the energy in the ring. But a staff, okay, especially if the staff is designed properly, it is going to give you the power. The staff holds the power in order for you to herd the dead, which is why I like to use the spirit. And the spirit either holds a scythe, a staff, some kind of tool, a wand, in order for them to control the dead. Now, can you do it yourself? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, if you have a staff, a wand, if you have some kind of tool that possesses the power, okay, if it's attuned properly, in order for you to control the dead, and sometimes the spirit is inside of that tool, it'll be easier for you to herd. But with me, the best way that I like to do it, because I'm going to be 100% honest, it's easier for me. And I am one of those spiritualists where easier is better for me. Anything that is quicker, anything that's, I don't have to do all these. I love rituals, but I like a quick ritual. Even when I go to like fetes, some things take hours to bring the spirits in. I like the ones that are quick. Bring them on in. Let's get this ritual done. Let's do it, right? That's what I like to do. But you can absolutely use a staff. If that's something that you want to do, you can use a staff. But me, I like to go the route of the spirit. And I allow the spirit that holds the staff to control. I'm going to devote myself to you. I'm going to spend time with you. I'm going to build a relationship so that you are able to guide. You are able to herd. You're able to keep them away. Keep them motherfuckers out. Ooh, I don't know if I could curse. I'm sorry, but keep them out. Shoo. But Osiris is depicted as a spirit with either green skin or black skin. I give you a little bit of detail just so that if you are trying to build a relationship, you're looking out for certain signs. Almost all the spirits that I'm going to speak about today, when they come to you in your dreams, you're going to know, because they are going to either show you a cave, the graveyard, the cemetery, something that's letting you know they're linked to the dead. If there's anything that looks distorted, that looks creepy, that makes you break out in cold sweat, that is not what you want to be interacting with. That you're not doing something right, okay? You're not cleansing yourself properly. You do not have to go to the graveyard to summon these spirits. This can be, like I said, you can say this out loud. When Santa Muerte first came to me, it was literally nothing but her coming to me in my dreams and then me saying out loud, I want to build a relationship. I did not have to go to the graveyard. So don't feel like you got to do any of that, all right? You want to be safe. You want to be clean when you do this, but you'll get your sign. You can also tell them that you have a secret word or a code word, or a code symbol or something like that to know that the spirit is coming to you. But Osiris would be a great spirit to work with. He's very knowledgeable as well. If you wanted to build a devotional relationship, in order for you to have a spirit to herd the spirit of the dead, if they keep coming to you, they're harassing you, you're unable to control them, he's a great spirit to work with that herds them. Another spirit that's not very commonly talked about, that's not very commonly used, is Hermes. And Hermes is a messenger god, but he is also a shepherd god. He is a spirit of shepherding. It's very important. Like I said, you want something to control the dead, you need someone who's a shepherd, someone who's able to keep them out. And Hermes would actually use his shepherding gifts to control and look over the dead. That was in Greek mythology. I don't like to say mythology because, once you start communicating with certain spirits, they start coming in your dreams. You're like, this isn't much of a myth. You know what I mean? But Hermes is a great spirit also to work with. He's very quick. Just the only thing I can say is certain spirits have a trickster side. So just always make sure you're connecting with the correct spirit. And make sure you know what you're asking for. Sometimes they will give you exactly what you're asking for. So just make sure this is something that you want yourself. So he's known for guiding purgatory souls to the afterlife, which is great if you're somebody who does a lot of intranquil work. I do intranquil work. Working with Hermes will allow purgatory souls to be crossed over into the afterlife so that they can move on. If you're somebody who does mediumship and you're able to communicate with the deceased, and they have a tendency to come to you to help you cross them over, Hermes is a great spirit to be a medium and help with the transitioning process. Pluto is also another great spirit to work with. Pluto is the god of dead, riches, underworld. He resides and watches over the purgatory souls. Pluto is similar to the energy of Hades. I will be 100% honest, because I have devoted myself to Persephone. Pluto or Hades is probably not one of the first spirits that I would go to, or that I have done work with. I have heard other people who work with Pluto. However, I do, just from research and from talking to others, Pluto is a great spirit to have. Very strong, very masculine energy, and helps with looking over them, shepherding, making sure that purgatory souls are staying safe and where they need to be, and tranquil souls are where they need to be, so that you don't have them wandering around your house like I do sometimes. But with that being said, let's move on. Also, you can work with San La Muerte. Now, I'm also going to talk about La Santa Muerte because she's, this is my mommy. This is somebody that I worked with for not only quite some time, but came to me and I built a relationship with. From what I do know, San La Muerte is a very strong spirit. He is more in the regions of South America, and I know like Argentina, Central South America, they do devotional work. He is more of like, like La Santa Muerte, he gets a very bad reputation. He is like I don't want to say santo, he's like a spirit that looks over like prisoners and inmates, convicted felons and stuff like that. He has a very bad rep. That's all I will say. However, he is the masculine form of La Santa Muerte. La Santa Muerte has a very bad reputation. They call her the cartel saint. I like to say this. Anybody could pray to Jesus Christ. Ted Bundy, when he was on death row, was praying to Jesus Christ and said he had an epiphany and how he was a changed man and he gave himself to Christ. You know what I mean? And, Christ forgave him for his sins so that other people should forgive him for his sins. You could pray to whoever you want to pray to, right? Anybody is capable of praying whoever they want to pray to. These spirits do not care who you are. They don't care your background. They don't care your race. They don't care your ethnicity. They don't care who you believe in. As long as you are serving me, as long as you are putting your energy into me, as long as you are building that devotional relationship, you good in my eyes. I don't care who you are, you good in my eyes. We always say don't judge thy neighbor. These spirits ain't gonna judge. These spirits ain't gonna judge you. They just want you to serve them. You be good to them, they be good to you. They don't care about what you got going on. It doesn't matter, There are times also too that with La Santa Muerte, I noticed that if you take something too far, if you're doing something wrong, she has no problem checking you, right? These spirits will do that. It doesn't mean you could go out here and just be a horrible person. It don't work like that. But they will be, it's gonna take some stuff in order for them to be like, like that ain't right. You can't do that. That's not right. But with San La Muerte, like I said, he gets a bad reputation. He's a masculine form of La Santa Muerte. He's associated with not only the dead, but like luck, prisoners, money, stuff like that. So you can use him for many different things. I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest. That's how it is with my relationship with La Santa Muerte. I use her pretty much for whatever it is that I can, like everything. Like I'm talking about everything. Manifesting house, money, controlling the dead, like everything. And she always comes through. It's the same with him. I will be honest, he is a whole lot more strict. You might, there's sometimes where blood sacrifice may be, animal sacrifice may be needed. But they say that about La Santa Muerte. There was probably only one time that she's called for a blood sacrifice. But it's not all the time. But she do want you to devote yourself. The same with him. So it is one of those things where you're building that personal relationship with that spirit. That's what you and that spirit. That's y'all relationship. That's y'all connection. But like I said, it is one of those spirits where you can't just start serving him, ask him for stuff, and then you about to dip out. It's not gonna work like that. Like he needs full commitment, and his energy is very harsh. It's like harsher than La Negra. It's very, very powerful, very harsh, very strong. And like I said, once you start devoting, you cannot stop. Like it's just you all in or nothing. Don't ask for nothing. It's a fair warning. I did put him on the list because one, the energy came out when I was writing the list. Also, he's a very good masculine energy to, have around. I work with some spirits that, some people have a lot of negative things to say, but the spirit takes care of me, make sure things are done. If I need something, the spirit got me. So it's really the relationship you want to build. It's really the relationship you want to have. It's up to you. That's the only thing I can say. I can just only be the messenger, but something happened. Don't come back blaming me, because I'm trying to help you out. Just, fair warning. Now we're going to talk about La Santa Muerte. We're going to talk about the feminine energies. I don't want to make this list too long. I'm just doing kind of like some that are kind of touched upon, some that are not. It's really up to you. Take the information that resonates, leave what does not. Now, list of death goddesses, La Santa Muerte. Also, I'm just going to talk about Mitecualtica, and the same with the masculine energy of San La Muerte, the Mexica energy or spirit. More than likely, if you are an indigenous person, Mitecualtica will come to you. That is going to be, common. That's not a very uncommon thing. Now, if you are somebody who has no indigenous blood or whatever the case is, you can still work with La Santa Muerte. You can still do work with her. You don't have to have just a devotional relationship. You can still do work with her. Like, I still do rituals. I still do work with her. I honestly, because she be coming through so much, I really don't even have to do that much, and she'll still come through. Mitecualtica, on the other hand, like I said, some forms or aspects will require, or she will ask for blood sacrifice. Is that all the time? Like I said, no. No, that's your relationship with her. But Mitecualtica is a whole lot more strong and harsher. I'm talking about, one time I did a ritual, and I'm not gonna lie, the other person who was there was low key, like, they were scared. They was like, I don't like this feeling. The energy, the energy took up the whole house. The whole house. I'm talking about, it was radiating. It was so heavy, but not in a way where, I mean, it was low key scary. Like, it was, there's maybe one other spirit I came into contact with that was that strong, like, where it low key got you like, oh shoot, you know what I mean? Like, I would never cross this spirit. Like, I would never do anything bad or speak bad. Like, I would never do anything to get on the spirit's bad side. The energy radiated the whole room. But that's because it was a ritual offering to one of the harsher aspects, because even like the gold aspect, the white, la blanca, those are like more softer energies. But I'll be honest, I tend to work in general with my spirits with harsher energies, because I can be very much that kind of personality, that kind of person, where my energy is just kind of like really direct, very direct. We don't got to beat around the bush. We don't got to do none of that. Very direct. So I prefer to work with spirits that are heavier and harsher, where there's some people, like Aphrodite devotees, where Aphrodite is literally a goddess of war, but her energy is very soft as well. I like things that are a little bit more dense and heavier in energy, because it helps me with like my clear cognizance, my knowing. So it lets me know, like, oh, the spirit is here. Sometimes it feels nice to feel a little bubbly and light, but I like a heavy hitter. I guess that's just what it is about me. But La Santa Muerte, you can work with her. I've known, no matter what race, I've known people who are white, Asian. It does not matter. She does not care. She does not care. As long as you're willing to worship her and devote yourself to her, she does not care. So, only thing is, like I said, Mitecualtica, that's a different story. I can't really, I have my relationship with her. I built my relationship. She's just not one that's like too common to come out, is what I will say. It takes a lot for her to trust you and for that energy to come out. She has to be very comfortable, and she got to know you ain't scared. And it takes, all I'm going to say is, it takes a lot for that aspect or that side. La Santa Muerte is not the kind of, like, when she's around you, but it does take some trust for her to build in order for you to see certain things or experience certain things with her. Which is why in all my videos that I talk about La Santa Muerte, I say she's such a fascinating, versatile spirit to work with. Whenever people are like scared to work with her, I always try to like ease them into it. Like I said, she can be very jealous, but then again, I feel like if you do what you're supposed to do and venerate and worship her, there's no issue. Because I work with my Loa. I don't put anything on her altar. Like anything that is anyone else's, I do not put it on her altar. But I still do my service. I serve my Loa. I work with my Loa. I have pots. I work with intranquils. She do not care as long as she got her coffee, her prayer, and I'm talking to her, and I keep her occupied. I don't put nothing on there. She's fine. So don't believe the hype that everybody tells you all the bad things about her. Another spirit that I also work with hurting the dead, who is amazing, is Hecate. Now, Hecate is the spirit of the crossroads, but it's the three-way crossroad, right? In voodoo, the spirit of the crossroad, you have in the middle, in the center of the crossroad. Well, you have Legba, right? They consider him like the crossroad, or the guardian of the gates. He has like, the access to the paths and roads. And in the center, you have Mekafu. Mekafu is more of like the darker, sinister energy. Everyone says it's like Legba's brother, but from my experience, I'll just say Kafu is more kind of like a sinister energy, heavier energy, the kind of spirit that can eat jab or eat bad spirits, whatever. I'm just don't want to give too much away, but it's a very, very interesting energy to work with. But Hecate, I love her because I remember I was going through some spiritual stuff, and she came in a dream and helped me. And the interesting thing about all of these spirits that I've noticed, they don't care what tradition or what practice you are in. If you have a relationship with them, they're going to come into your dreams. They're going to come and help. They will assist other spirits. She assisted another spirit in my court in a dream when somebody was doing something to me. But she is an amazing spirit to work with. I will say she is also, they call her a mother for a reason. She does expect you to, she has high expectations, right? She has high expectations, but it's because the reward is very big. But she is the goddess or the spirit of the underworld, of necromancy, of the dead, of witchcraft. She is so versatile, which is why I love that spirit so much. She is also known as, they call her the triple god. Well, people could confuse her with the triple goddess. Hecate is not the triple goddess, but she does have three forms. She has the head of a dog, the head of it's the head of a dog, the head of a bear, and the head of a snake. It might change depending on how she comes to you. When she first came to me, she came as like a beautiful young woman, didn't have three heads. She had a light, and she had very dark hair, but she looked very, very young. And I remember this spirit had a key, and that's how I knew it was her in the dream. She had a light, she had a key, and she had told me to give her something. She was like, doing like brujeria in like the kitchen, and she told me to give her something, and I gave it to her, and she was able to help me in my dream with what I was having issues with. But nonetheless, very active spirit. She will definitely let you know when she's around. She'll let you know when the dead is around. Probably like I said, one of my favorite spirits to work with hurting. Love her. Can you work with more than one spirit at a time? Absolutely, because a lot of these that are on the list, I already work with them, built a relationship. Sometimes I just like to do certain rituals with certain ones. So, like I said, I'm a little bit more of like, I like to experiment. You can just be like, girl, one is enough for me. I'm going to just do one and then go from there. But me, I just really like to communicate with spirits. That's just my thing. And then we have Ereshkigal, who is the goddess of the dead. I actually have a video on Ereshkigal on my channel, and I'll talk about her and her relationship with Inanna, which is her sister. But Ereshkigal is the goddess of the dead. and the underworld. She completely controls Ker, which is basically the Mesopotamian word for the underworld or the dead. Ereshkigal is a very similar energy to Ishtar. A lot of people think that she's Lilith, but these are still different energies. She's a very harsh energy. I've worked with her in dreams, and she's very her energy is potent. I'll say that it's very strong. It's very potent, but she's very beautiful. Very, very beautiful energy to work with. But like I said, these spirits, and I noticed it more with the feminine spirits, they expect to be worshipped, right? And I feel like that's how women are in this day and age. Like, we expect to be worshipped. We want to be, adorned. We want to be taken care of. We want to make sure that, like, we're good. That's how these spirits are. So once you're building that devotional relationship, once you're building a relationship with them, they get very angry if you are to just build a relationship and just kind of leave after that, or just ask for something and then don't fill your end of the bargain, or whatever the case is. You always want to go into this with good intentions, and with the intention that this is something that's going to be for life, not just for now because you need it, right? Or not just to ask for something, like they expect you to be there. Last, I'm going to talk about hell. Hell now is not a spirit that I can say that I've worked with. I think she's a very beautiful spirit. I've known other people who are devotees of hell. She is, once again, I feel like the feminine spirits are a little bit more harsher than the masculine spirits. But hell is the one who overlooks the underworld. When she comes to you, she is kind of like a pale bluish color. And a lot of people consider her or tie her, and remember, these are different energies, to Mahakali. Now, I did want to talk about the Devis, but I think that is definitely one of those things where the Devis are not beginner spirits. Even though I don't like to say beginner, intermediate, like there are some spirits, like I said, Jinn is not something that you just want to go around and start working with. Even like the Loa, specific Loa are not energies that you can just go and start like jumping in and working with them, especially the graveyard. The Gede spirits are not the ones you want to just hop in and just start working, or whatever the case is. And you got to make sure that's within your lineage if you're meant to be doing that. But the same with the Devis, like Kali or Makali. That energy is so dark and dense and heavy, and not in a bad way. It's in a healing and transformative way. Even though with Mahakali, you can find her energy, you can really connect to her energy in crematoriums around the dead. She is, the death goddess of destruction and transformation. But that is something that's a little bit more complex, which I will like to talk about the Devis in the future, because even approaching Devis, even doing certain rituals require purification, cleansing. It requires a lot. When I went through my Kundalini, like yoga training, in order for me to get my certification, I had did purification rituals. I'm talking about for months. For me to open my third eye during that ritual, like during that process, it was 8 weeks alone, right? 8 weeks alone. And I'm talking about abstaining from, intimacy, eating certain kind of food, waking up at a certain time, in order for you to invoke or connect with the Devis. It is a lot for you to do that. So that's why I didn't put the Devis on the list. I kind of wanted to do spirits that are easier to work with, that I've worked with, that I can recommend for the most part, or that I know somebody who worked with them and I've said, oh, that's interesting. I would probably be open to working with that spirit, because I know they don't require as much as like a Devi would. But hell is a great spirit to work with, especially if a lot of people, or if other people are saying the connection between her and Makali is very similar. That is a great spirit to work with. I don't have any personal connection with hell, or ventured into that territory as yet. But the research that I did see, she is a great shepherd, a great herder. And for any spirit that's overlooking the dead, that's kind of the route you want to go. But I definitely would Like I said, be very careful. You want to make sure that you're practicing very safely, practicing necromancy safely, and making sure that you're not doing too much at once or thinking that you have to perfect something, because that's not how it works. It takes a lot of time for you to build the relationship with the spirits. Me and Santa Muerte, it took me years for me to see certain things that she's able to even do. So it's just a matter of the connection that you have with that spirit. And like I said, don't open doors and don't walk into something. Don't say you're going to do something to a spirit or for a spirit and then you don't follow through with that. It takes a lot of connection building and trust in order for you to have a good relationship with the spirit so they can help you out. But with that being said, we'll still continue to venture more into necromancy, rituals, different kind of things in the future. All my information is in the description box below if you want to connect with me. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in and stopping by. I adore you. I appreciate you. And I'll talk to you soon.